So on your show, you've got your first unit, you're scheduling away, everything is great, and suddenly you realize I've got a visual effects unit, I've got a plate unit, I've got a stunt unit, I've got multiple units. How the heck am I going to schedule that? Well, what you need is multiple boards. Let's get started. ThinkCrew has the ability to create multiple boards for your show. So if you need a first unit, second unit, visual effects unit, any number of different units, there's no limit to the number of boards that you can create. And using these is just very intuitive and very simple. You can just drag across strips and they can land in any different board you want them to. But before we take a look at how to create these and how to manage these, let's take a step back and actually talk about sort of the theory of different scenarios and boards that live inside of those scenarios in your schedule. So at the root of all scheduling software is the concept of a strip board. And you're familiar with this if you've done any scheduling before. You have a board and a number of strips on it, and you can move the strips around the board. And what was unspoken, but is part of the concept of that, is that there is one scenario per strip board. So your strip board is a scenario. If you create a second strip board, it is a different scenario. And let's define scenario. A scenario is a plan to shoot all of the scenes that are in the script. So for instance, in one scenario, I might start by shooting out actor one on the call sheet first, and in another scenario, I might have to flop the board and shoot out number one on the call sheet last on the schedule. These are different scenarios. But of course, when you think about it, it isn't just one strip board per scenario. There was actually a recycle bin or boneyard, if you're using software that calls the recycle bin a boneyard. And you would move the strips between your strip board and your recycle bin and back and forth as you do your schedule. So there's always been two boards in a scenario. And this has worked completely fine for scheduling software for decades. You have your strip board, you have your recycle bin, everything is great. Of course, the problem starts to arise when you have multiple units in your strip board. And traditionally what people do is they list all of the first unit scenes, and then maybe they have a banner and they list all the second unit scenes or other units for their show. And that also can be fine, but when your show gets really complicated, if you're working on a larger show where, for instance, you have multiple units or you are shooting in multiple countries at the same time, this kind of system can get very confusing very fast. So what ThinkCrew does is it allows you to create multiple boards, not just the strip board and the recycle bin, but any number of different boards for all of your different units or any other way that you have divided up the work on your show. In this example, I have a first unit, second unit, visual effects unit. I could also have a stunts unit, a plates unit, any other way of dividing your work up so that it makes sense that each one of them has their own board is what ThinkCrew is designed to do. But of course, going back to our original example where in the first unit we were shooting out number one on the call sheet in the beginning of the schedule, and then we have another scenario where we're shooting out that actor at the end of the schedule, we're going to need multiple scenarios. So ThinkCrew allows you to have as many scenarios as you want and as many boards in those scenarios as are necessary. So in this example, I've got scenario one where let's just say, for example, I'm shooting out number one on the call sheet in the beginning of the schedule, and this is what this looks like and how it affects all of the other units. And then in scenario two, where I'm shooting out the actor at the end of the schedule, here's how that affects first unit, second unit, visual effects unit, and what's left in the recycle bin. So back here in the schedule, let's take a look at how this actually gets implemented. We have our first unit, our second unit, and our visual effects unit, all different boards contained inside of one scenario. Of course, we have our recycle bin over here. If I want to add a new board to this scenario, the fastest way to do that is just click on Window, New Board Pane, and it will add a new board pane right here. To manage all these different boards, for instance, renaming them or changing them somehow, I go to the Scenario Manager, which is right here, Manage Scenarios. In this schedule, I have two scenarios. I have a script order, which is just all of the strips in script order. And then I have a first pass on the schedule, which contains many different boards, and that's the one we're currently looking at. Here you can see there's first unit, the recycle bin, second unit, visual effects unit, and here's the new board that I just created. So let's rename this board Stunt Unit. If I want to add more boards to this scenario, I just click the button right here, Add Boards. We'll create another one right here. And if I want to delete one of the boards, I click on the little trash can icon right here. And inside each one of these boards, you can see there are different settings. I can set the individual calendar for that board. It's possible on your show you may just have one calendar for your entire show, but you also have the option to have different calendars for different units. So for instance, if I have a different calendar for my second unit, I can use that calendar right here. It might contain different holidays because I'm shooting in a different country, or any number of different calendar events. I can also individually set the days off. So if my visual effects unit is going to shoot on a different cadence than my normal unit, I can make those changes here. So let's say that this unit is going to take off Friday and Saturday, and it's going to shoot Sunday through Thursday. And lastly, you can set the start date on a per board basis. So if my main unit is going to start on 5/5, but my other units are going to start on different dates, I can set those right here just with the usual calendar input. And of course, inside the scenario, I can give names to the name of the revision, the date of this revision in the schedule, as well as the name of the accompanying script and the date of that script. And with that work done, we could actually add some strips to our stunt unit. I'm just going to drag this down here using the tab pane system. And let's say I want to take these strips here and add them to stunts. I just drag them across, and now I have some strips in my stunt unit. And now I can hand off these individual boards to my stunt coordinator, second unit director, and visual effects coordinator. If you have any questions about this or any other topics, email us at this address right here or hit us up on social media. Don't forget to hit that like button, click subscribe, and turn on alerts so you don't miss any of our future videos. Thank you so much for watching, and that's a wrap.